Hi, this is Anais and welcome to my channel. I do intuitive card readings and my focus is entirely on the ascension journey that is including and is unfolding through sacred union between divine masculine, divine feminine, and source. And this will also be appropriate for those people who self-identify as twin flames. My own identification is with sacred union, with meeting the beloved, and there's some subtle differences with that. For me, most important is the emphasis on sacred sensuality and sexuality within the sacred union dynamic, which I think is slightly different than what happens with twins, from my understanding of watching lots of videos from a few years back when I was trying to figure out what in the world was happening in my own situation. I am on a sacred union journey, and I have been since 2016 with this current round of clarity around ascension opportunities that we're coming into. So I am going to do an extended reading, and the focus today is very, very specific. It has to do with where the masculine energy is right now in the union, and also where the divine feminine is. But there's been a shift, and if you've been watching my videos, you do know that I do get memos from source about a major clearing that's going to be happening on a global level, and how it's going to be assisted by the sacred union community, and how it's going to impact the sacred union community. So the cards came out in groups, and this was the first grouping. We have, from the fairy oracles, we have Lady of the Harvest, Arvel the Parrot, and Tobira of the Waters. So I've got to try to find a way to make it possible for you to see these cards. Hopefully this is going to work, and I apologize for the glare. That might work. So Lady of the Harvest, this indicates the processing of grief and loss, and how we move through energies of grief and loss. And if you watched one of my most recent readings, we were talking about, see if I can get these fingers to hold all of these cards. The memo came in about the global collective beginning to clear the template of incest, which is an incredible distortion, oh boy, of divine sacred sensuality, and a distortion of childhood innocence, and more. So what I'm feeling is that there's a tremendous amount of grief that's going to be processed around that, grief and loss. But there's also going to be a wonderful, wonderful, ample supply of healing resources to move through the clearing of this template. Now, here's Tobira of the Waters. So we have healing waters that'll be part of clearing the template of incest. And here we have Arvel the Parrot. And for me, this actually represents the divine masculine sandwiched between grief and loss and profound healing. And this has to do with his own Akashic records around incest, as a perpetrator of incest, or being on the receiving end of that kind of horribly distorted sacred sensuality. And in many of these instances, these activities, I don't even know what words to use anymore, but let's just say the activity or the strategy or the tactic of using incest as a cultural whip, an instrument of domination. This is about protecting bloodlines, and so incest was quite common in monarchies because the bloodline of the royal family was not to be polluted, and the golden frequency in the bloodline of monarchy was not to be shared with non-royal beings. So here we have Arvel the parrot in the middle, and he's pointing through his throat chakra. And I think that this energy has a lot to say. I think the divine masculine in the clearing of this incest template, he's going to have as much to say when the time comes as women have had to say with the Me Too movement. Because when it comes to the really distorted sexual energies that happen within a dynamic like incest, people are not aware of the details. We get these stories that come out and make major headlines, but it's important to recognize that that activity of incest is going on all the time. And it may be that you have well-meaning parents who allow children of different sexes to sleep together beyond a certain age. And then the dynamic between a brother and a sister, or a brother and a brother, can change. The sexual energy can change because children are erotic beings. And so I think what we're going to see is that between grief and loss, and expressing grief and loss of innocence, or an ability to be in a truly loving family, or soul family or tribe, and the healing waters, we're going to be finding that there are a lot of divine masculines who are going to be remembering and grappling and struggling. And if that's you, divine masculine, and you're watching this, please, please reach out for support. Reach out support for healing this part of your soul dynamic. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of divine masculines in bodies who have had to grapple with this particular sexual distortion. And there are also many, many, many entrapped souls in the human collective who their literal soul material has been hijacked and parked away in places where they can no longer find it, and so they feel they have no way to ever feel whole again. So that's a very heavy beginning to the reading, but I want to emphasize how much grounded, loving, clear, nurturing support surrounds this for both divine masculine or divine feminine who have had their lives touched, or have a soul memory or past life memory, alternate timelines where they have been involved in the expression of sexuality through the activity of incest. Okay. So then I inquired further, because of this dynamic coming up, what else is coming to assist with the transmutation and clearing and healing of this. And the next two cards that came out were the Green Woman and Solace. And this is the divine masculine in his clarity, in his divine blueprint, awake and aware, and functioning through his source divine blueprint. And the Green Woman represents a protective structure around wild, primitive energy. This is a very, very beautiful energy of creating a safe space, but one that is not rigid or dogmatic. So the divine masculine is going to be having an opportunity with his divine feminine inside of himself and with his counterpart, because she's already feeling this if this is coming out, for him to have a safe space to share the how the activity of incest landed on him, happened to him, and has impacted him. And out with these two cards of the Green Woman and Solace also came Lace, the Moon's daughter, and the the fairies of the future. So in terms of where the divine masculine is in his emotional body and in his headspace, is he's ready to move forward with a sexuality, a sacred sensual energy that has been reunited with source divine blueprint. And here you can see we have the fairies of the future, so he's beginning to have a sense of trust and faith that he's going to be able to make this transition in the near future. He's going to be able to speak, he's going to be able to feel, he's going to be able to remember, and he's also going to remember. He's going to, by lifting that burden, he's going to be able to get a glimpse of his own divine blueprint wholeness, and he is going to then feel so empowered to come into not only his sacred union, but come into a he, she, and again, this is not gender-based, this is masculine, feminine energy I'm talking about. Come into a unification with masculine and feminine energy in his life, in his body, and in his relationships. Really beautiful, healed balance, and joy, and fun, and playfulness, and moving past the awful shock and wounding, and you know, it's hard to regain one's innocence, but you can absolutely be moved into your own sense of spiritual and divine wholeness. And this is something we need to remember, that our innocence can then be expressed in a new and unique different way. And this is what we have to look forward to with the fairies of the future. And in this way, we are working to protect the children of the future, the innocence of the future, and clearing out, making visible, bringing up from the depths and the darkness, the tragedies, the many seeds of tragedy that the activity of incest has sown in the human collective. All right, I'm going to do this one more time so you can hopefully see these cards. I'm doing my best. It's kind of hard to judge what the camera's going to pick up and what glare it's going to pick up. Okay, and so the card that came out from the Wisdom Oracle around this next wave of energy, as timelines are merging with the sacred union, and timelines are merging and the divine masculine and feminines are coming into union, is serendipity. So there's going to be support for unexpected and helpful, lucky surprises to support us in this effort of cleaning up these difficulties within ourselves. And because we're about to merge a new timeline coming toward union, we are going to have to work this through. So there may be some of you who actually have a clear memory of this happening in your life, but this dynamic of the abuse of innocence and the distortion of innocent erotic energy, and the distortion that comes with these very old, really, I don't even know what words to describe the dysfunctional energy that insists that the way to secure the bloodline is to interbreed and intermarry and to groom innocent children for the kinds of relationships where their own divine blueprint becomes immediately obscured with regard to their own sexuality. And there are very, very few ways to heal those wounds without then getting caught in additional traps of religion and culture. So with that, we're going to close the reading. I am going to do an extended, and thank you very much for stopping by the channel. And once again, If you're just coming into memory that this has happened to you, and it is a body memory, it is buried in your cells, and as we're in the ascension journey and in the union energy, it's going to come up. And you may be shocked by it. And then you have all kinds of decisions to make around what you're going to do with the information when it begins to surface into your conscious mind. It could be buried very deep in your body memory. And so as these issues are coming up, I cannot stress enough how much tender regard and self-acceptance and self-love and support. This is you, Divine Masculine, or this is you, Divine Feminine. Please reach out and get the support that you need and develop the pathway of trust, truth, trust, and transparency again, because that pathway is shattered through the activity of incest. Okay, so it's heavy, and I'm bringing it up because while we're coming into union, and we're going to feel the tremendous joy and celebration of all of that, we need to remember to bring all of who we are, all of who we are, all of our grief and our losses and our difficulties and our challenges. We need to bring all of who we are into the healing waters of the ascension journey and into the healing waters of being in sacred union with our divine counterpart, who is going to nurture, support us, and trust us, and walk with us on this path of rebuilding truth, transparency, and trust. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much for watching, and if you would like to continue on with me in the extended reading, the link is below in the description box.